This video is an engineer video. It is not an actual task you will find in the manuals anymore. Not unless you go back to, say, 1950s, 1940s, then maybe you'll find it. And that task is employ an M-5 pressure release firing device or booby trap device. Now, just quick history on this. From what I found out, this was designed by a captain in the engineer regiment in 1943. He came up with the idea of simplifying the existing pressure release firing devices, coming up with something that required a lot less metal, be faster to mass produce, and easier for the soldiers to use. He submitted his design and example to the ordnance board. They checked it over. They said, hey, we want you to make a few changes. He went through a few more iterations on it, and then this is the model that was approved in 1944 and is still issued today. The U.S. military has these primarily for booby trapping mines, but you can booby trap other ordnance with it also very easily. Now, just a quick go over on at the top here. This is the pressure plate. We have our safety pin here. On the safety pin, there is a lanyard with a small cotter pin. The cotter pin goes through a small hole on this end of the safety pin. On the bottom, you have the hole here where you screw in the coupling base firing device M1, or as we referred to it, the standard base. On the side, as you look at it, you have a larger hole here, which I did not know until I looked at the manual today, is referred to as the interceptor hole. And then you have the hole for the safety pin. Now, in order to prep this for use in a booby trap or even for booby trapping a mine, first, get yourself a piece of 10 gauge wire, and this will work. And it will go through this hole here and through the interceptor hole, and this becomes the positive safety pin. At this point, pushing down on the pressure plate, you will remove the safety pin and you will install an 18 gauge piece of wire, and it actually says in the current manual for this on FM 20-32 mine countermine operations, use a piece of coat hanger. So we now have longer safety pins on here to make it easier for employing this booby trap underneath an object. We got that set. We go to where we're going to emplace our booby trap. Now, this can be used on any piece of ordnance, not just a landmine. So going back to World War II, let's get a pineapple grenade here. We're going to unscrew the fuse assembly, and we have our not live grenade here is ready to go. We're going to take our coupling base firing device M1, and this is an expended one. We're going to attach a non-electric blasting cap onto this. Take a crimpers, crimp the blasting cap onto here to keep it from coming off. We're then going to take our firing device and we're going to screw on the standard base like so. And we're going to take the ordnance and we're going to screw it into the ordnance. We would then put the booby trap in place. And then we put at least 5 pounds of weight over the top, pressure directly down on the pressure plate here. So it needs to have some heft. An ammo crate, anything. You know, like I said, landmines are more than enough to put on the top as long as you have contact with the pressure plate. Make sure you got that weight on there. If you got a little bit of question on if there's going to be enough contact, each one of these comes with a piece of wood similar to this, just a piece of fiberboard. You put that on there and then the weight over the top to hold it in place. Now, everything's set. Our weight's on there. The piece of ordnance is not going to move. We then go through and arm it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull the thinner of the wires, the safety pin. After we got that, and it comes through clean, nice and easy, we then remove the positive safety pin, the thicker of the two wires. At that point, your booby trap's now armed. You need to finish camouflaging it and move away slowly so you don't set the damn thing off. Now, the enemy didn't set it off. We got to come through and disarm this. We go through, clear away to camouflage, so we get a good check on the booby trap. Make sure it's still in place. The first thing that we do is we insert the larger piece of wire in first, the 10 gauge, our positive safety pin. Then we slide in the thinner piece of wire, the 18 gauge, into the hole for the safety pin itself. At that point, we've made sure there's no other traps attached to the weight that's over the top. We remove the weight. If there was a board on top, we then remove the board. We then pick up our piece of ordnance. We go through and we unscrew firing device from the piece of ordnance. Flip it over. And we remove our standard base. We then turn everything in, or we safe it as much as possible, maybe bend the wires a little bit so they can't get pulled out. Move them on to the next location, whatever the particular instructions are. Now, the M-5 pressure release firing device here, the M-5 mousetrap as we called it, these come in a cardboard box, or excuse me, first a small paper carton with 4 firing devices and 4 pieces of fiberboard. And then there are 5 of those paper cartons inside a cardboard box, and then 10 of those cardboard boxes per wooden crate. Now, the coupling base firing device M1, aka standard base, these come inside a carton of 50, and there are 10 of those cartons per wooden crate. Now, using that on a landmine, which is a separate task that we'll go over sometime, potentially it will be for my supporters only over on Playeur. For that, you do not attach a blasting cap, you attach something like this. Now, this is a trainer, it is blue. The live ones are green. This is a actuator or activator. And this is essentially a small booster charge that gets screwed into the side or the bottom of an anti-tank mine to set it off if you attach a booby trap device. You do not use a blasting cap when setting off that mine. Now, there is something I came across in one of the books that I looked at. It said that you cannot attach a coupler base firing device M1 to an M67 fragmentation grenade. I don't have a live one. I have a trainer here, which is similar, a little bit different in size. But it'll have similar threads. And let's see if that's true. Well, goddamn, look at that. It does screw onto the grenade body. So I guess you could potentially use a standard base with a blasting cap inside an M67. You're never gonna know until you try. Is it possible that the threads are going to be a lot different on a live one compared to a trainer? Of course it is. But it at least works on the training example that I have. So it'll let you know that even the newer fragmentation grenades should work with that setup. Now, the legal disclaimer on this. Is it legal to own an M5 mousetrap? Yes, it is, as long as you have it for display and you do not have the extra stuff to go with it. The only standard base that I have is expended. I used it on training my soldiers years ago, and after it goes off, it's just a piece of scrap metal, so I hung on to it, and usually I have it in a display. And you also do not have the blasting caps to go with it. By itself, yeah, you can own them. You can own the old booby trap firing devices. It is legal. So, how much do they cost? It really varies. You know, it depends on the seller and the time that you try getting it. But if you do get a hold of some, make sure that you do not have the other pieces to go with them, and that they are only for display only, because if you got the complete set, you could potentially end up with problems with the ATF. Just to give you a heads up. So there you go. The basics on employing an M5 pressure release firing device. I did not set this off because it is a pain in the butt to reset the strikers. The strikers on these, I just told Combat Cameraman, are so strong. They did not just leave a divot in the standard base when it would go off. It actually punched a hole in them when it set them off. There's that much tension with these springs on these, and as it's a pain to get it to reset. And you know, for those of you that are wondering, I did use one of these in one of my Viet Cong booby trap videos, where, you know, I removed a ammo can and it took the pressure off of the pressure plate, setting it off. I had to reset that one. I think this is actually the one that I used for that. So now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and militia movements, always remember essayons.